Call the Town of Fuquay-Varina Planning Board to order. We'll get right to business. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the February 15th, 2021 Planning Board meeting. Purpose of this agenda item is to consider approval of the minutes from the Planning Board meeting of February 15th, 2021. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of, and are there any changes or corrections?
I have a question. It says Ed's name on the bottom to sign it. If he wasn't here, do I need to sign it since I was the vice chair and I chaired it, or does he still sign it?
I think he still signs it because
I'll sign it as what basically it's signing it as the record.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
even though I wasn't
just like you signed it last month.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. Got it. Okay, just make sure. Other than that, I'm good.
Thank you. Are there any corrections or fixes, or I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 15th, 2021 meeting.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Just a quick statement on those minutes. A lot of detail in them. That's very nice. It was very good to see kind of capturing all of that. I know that's some effort, and I appreciate it. Okay, we'll go on to public hearings. The items tabled from previous meetings. Start out with the blanket statement for public hearings. Public hearings are a time for petitioners to present requests and for the public to state their concerns and voice opinions in favor of or in opposition to those requests. Due to COVID-19 state mandate, the public will only have access and input to this meeting using the Zoom social media platform. When you're called on by the moderator, state your name and address for the record before speaking in regards to the request. Planning Director Pam Davidson will provide further information on how to participate.
Thank you. All attendees that have joined the meeting tonight have joined muted. If you wish to speak during the meeting, you will need to notify staff you wish to speak. If you are joining the meeting online and wish to speak, please press the raise hand button. If you are joining the meeting via phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. After you've raised your hand, staff will recognize you to speak by calling out your name or last 4 digits of your phone number. You will be unmuted at this time and allowed to speak. Once you have finished speaking, you will be muted for the remainder of the meeting, and if you wish to speak again, you will need to raise your hand again.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to item 3A. Zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment, Fuquay Warehouse and Storage LLC, 6109 South North Carolina 55 Highway and 1206 North Carolina 42 Highway, pins 0677203753 and 0677208852, REZ 2020-22. Purpose of this agenda item is to consider a requested zoning map amendment for a total of 8.34 acres located at 6109 South NC Highway 55 and 1206 NC 42 Highway from the heavy industrial HI zoning district to the corridor commercial conditional CCCZD zoning district, and the corresponding land use plan amendment at 1206 NC 42 Highway from light industrial and employment village to entirely light industrial LI. Further information will be provided by staff.
Thank you. I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official records of the town. The subject properties are 2 contiguous properties totaling 8.34 acres. 6109 South NC 55 Highway is located within the town's corporate limits, while 1206 NC 42 Highway is located within the town's extraterritorial jurisdiction. 1206 NC 42 Highway, although subject to annexation, is not under consideration for annexation at this time. The property, located at 6109 South NC Highway, resides in the town's corporate limits, includes a large warehouse structure currently used as flex space consisting of a multi-tenant facility. The property, located at 1206 NC 42 Highway, resides within the ETJ and is presently used as access to the property. The subject properties are currently zoned heavy industrial. The zoning map amendment petition requests approval of the corridor commercial zoning district. This zoning district is intended to accommodate medium-scale intensity non-residential development of a mix of convenience, services, retail, office, and limited institutional uses. This district is generally located at intersections designated as an urban center with arterial roads, parkways, boulevards, and major thoroughfares, and generally intended to be located within 1 to 1.5 miles from neighborhoods in the vicinity of this district. The petitioner is requesting the following conditions applicable to the use of the subject properties not be permitted: congregate living facility, government agencies and services, electronic sweepstakes gaming operations, tattoo and body piercing, bar and nightclub, bed and breakfast, hotels, golf course, dry cleaner, and funeral home. The surrounding properties are a mix of industrial, retail, and residential uses. Storage and various industrial uses are north, south, and west of the properties. A mobile home park is south of the properties. Furthermore, several large tracts of vacant land are west and east of the properties. The 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan designates the subject properties as light industrial classification at 6109 South NC Highway and the Employment Village classification at 1206 NC 42 Highway. The petitioner has included a land use plan amendment for 1206 NC 42 Highway as part of this zoning map petition, which we describe later in this report. Public water and sewer are available to serve the subject properties. The subject properties are located along and have access to South NC 55 Highway, classified as a 120-foot right-of-way by the 2035 Community Transportation Plan. This street is identified as a 4-lane median divided road with side paths and a carrying capacity of 40,500 average daily trips. It is currently a 2-lane median divided road with a carrying capacity of 20,200 average daily trips. 2019 NCDOT traffic counts taken just north of the property indicate a volume of 13,500 average daily trips. The petitioner held a neighborhood meeting on January 13, 2021 at 6109 South NC 55 Highway, Fuquay-Varina. The meeting report is attached and staff takes no position as to its content. The 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan calls the smaller property, 1206 NC 42 Highway, to be designated as Employment Village. Due to the proximity of the property to 6109 NC 55 Highway and the parcel's current development as access to the larger parcel, the EV Land Use Employment Village classification for the smaller property, 1206 NC 42 Highway, is not compatible. As such, if approved, the requested land use plan amendment would allow the property to be classified more consistently and appropriately as it relates to the current use in surrounding areas. Staff does not recommend the petitioner's request for a rezoning of the subject properties from heavy industrial to corridor commercial based on the following reasons. 1, the subject property is currently zoned heavy industrial. The neighboring properties to the north and south consist of existing industrial warehouses and are also zoned heavy industrial. Rezoning the subject property to corridor commercial creates an inconsistency between the neighboring properties based on both the industrial zoning classifications and the current uses. 2, the 2035 Land Use Plan designates light industrial for the subject and neighboring parcels to the north and south. Being that the town's industrial districts are limited, the Land Use Plan's designation for future light industrial uses places a high value on preserving industrial uses in the designated areas as they were located to protect economic opportunities and provide essential transitions to lower intensity uses. Staff is concerned that many of the permitted uses in the corridor commercial zoning district could pose health and safety concerns for members of the public visiting the site as it is currently developed as an industrial warehouse. 4, the petitioner's request to rezone the property to commercial corridor would permit, by right, a wide variety of commercial uses not appropriate at the subject site location, including banquet hall, conference center, commercial daycare, bank, restaurant food service, retail sales and service, retail bulk goods, brew pub, convenience store, tire sales, vehicle parts and accessories, specialized repair services, residential mixed-use developments, residential live-work units, stadium arena, civic club or lodge, trade or vocational school, medical offices, places of worship, hospital medical center, medical support facilities, game room, recreational facilities, convenience cash business, laundromat, personal service, pet service, a shopping center, service station, vehicle charter service, and a broadcasting radio or TV station. Allowing these broad range of uses to operate under the same traditional warehouse structure and within the site's industrial node could prove problematic, as many of the permitted uses are not complementary and could create conflicts between industrial traffic, equipment, noise, hours, and activity versus public interaction, consumer circulation, and safety. Even among the permitted commercial uses, there's a wide variety that could create clashes due to hours, user types, and intensity of uses. Although not in favor of the petitioner's request for a zoning map amendment, staff does recommend the petitioner's land use plan amendment request regarding the LUP amendment of the smaller portion of the subject properties, 1206 NC 42 Highway, from Employment Village to Light Industrial. Staff recommends this land use plan amendment, given the current nature of the property being utilized as access for the larger property, geographic location of the subject property concerning the adjacent light industrial area, and its relationship to the larger warehouse property, 6109 NC 55 Highway. I am available to answer any questions. I would also like to note that we have just recently been made aware that there is a church use currently at this site, which is a non-conforming use. Both, it's a zoning violation, and they have not gone and received building permit approval, so it's also a violation of the North Carolina Building Code. It was our understanding that that was a proposed use, and that was one of the purposes of this rezoning, but it has come to my attention that that use is currently operating out of this facility.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions before we start the public hearing? Okay. Okay, the public hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this rezoning amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, we got several hands raised. John Adcock, please unmute your mic.
Good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name is John Adcock. I'm an attorney with the Adcock Law Firm located at 202 East Academy Street. I'm getting a lot of feedback. I apologize.
We can hear you just fine.
Our firm represents Fuquay Warehouse Storage LLC regarding this rezoning petition. My client's property is under contract to be sold to a religious nonprofit church. The church intends to purchase the property and occupy it with the existing tenants and or future tenants. And I have no knowledge of the church occupying the property at this time. The fact that the church was purchasing the property and planning to move in was made known to the town staff before the rezoning petition was filed by representatives of the church and by the petitioner. In fact, the content of the rezoning petition before you tonight was recommended by the town staff for allowing the church to use the property as a place of worship and to reflect the current use of the property. The staff informed the petitioner and the church that a rezoning to either commercial corridor or general business districts would work. After deliberations between representatives of the church and the petitioner, it was decided to pursue a rezoning to the commercial corridor district. On December 30th, 2020, the petitioner conducted a pre-submittal meeting with the planning staff. It was again reiterated during the pre-submittal meeting that the intent of this rezoning petition was to allow a place of worship and to zone the property to a district that is consistent with the current uses of the property, which is a multiple tenant facility that includes 7 tenants. On December 31st, 2020, the rezoning petition was filed and a community scheduled and noticed. A community meeting was held January 13th, 2021 at 6 p.m. at the property. The notice of the community meeting included the petitioner's phone number and email address, allowing those not able to attend to contact directly the petitioner if there were any questions, concerns, or objections to the rezoning. 2 individuals called the petitioner and both voiced support for the rezoning. No one except the petitioner and the real estate broker representing the church attended the community meeting. There were and there have been no objections from property owners or members of this community to this rezoning. On January 21, 2021, a report of the community meeting was filed with the town. The report included the petitioner's proposed use conditions. Within a few days after the community meeting report was filed, town staff informed the petitioner that the staff is pursuing a zoning text amendment that would result in places of worship only being allowed in the 09 district and as a permitted use and in the light industrial district as a special use. This proposed text amendment would render the petitioner's rezoning petition moot. At no time prior was the petitioner of the church informed of this text amendment. This occurred more than 3 weeks after the rezoning petition was filed. Town staff indicated that once the town's text amendment was finalized, it would be provided to the petitioner. On April 15, 2021, the morning of this planning board scheduled meeting with the petitioner's rezoning petition on the agenda, the text amendment was provided to the petitioner. At the planning board meeting, the public hearing for the petitioner's rezoning petition was not held, and without the petitioner's consent, this board, at the direction of staff, continued the case to tonight's meeting. Subsequent to the last planning board meeting, an attorney for the church made demand from the town to withdraw the provisions regarding places of worship in the town's text amendment. Such provisions were in fact withdrawn by the town. At no point, including before and after filing the rezoning petition until now, has the town stated a position that rezoning creates an inconsistency between the neighboring properties or the land use plan. As previously stated, the rezoning petition before you tonight is in a form and content as suggested by the town staff. The property is currently occupied by 7 tenants. 6 of the 7 are indoor recreational uses under the LDO. Indoor recreation uses are permitted uses in the commercial corridor and heavy industrial zoning districts. Regarding the town's position that the rezoning should be denied because of the need to preserve land for industrial uses, within approximately 1 mile of the petitioner's property, there are approximately 575 acres of property within the town's jurisdiction that is zoned either heavy industrial or research light industrial. The properties immediately to the north and south are approximately 14.62 acres. Both properties have existing buildings and are zoned heavy industrial. To the east of the petitioner's property and south of Highway 42, there's approximately 103 acres zoned industrial. All of that property is vacant. Northeast of the petitioner's property and the north side of Highway 42, there's approximately 68 acres of land for heavy industrial. Approximately 38 acres is vacant. To the east of the petitioner's property on the other side of Highway 55, there are approximately 19 acres on research light industrial, with approximately 29 acres vacant. Further down Highway 55 and south of the property, there is approximately 137 acres on heavy industrial. This is the John Deere and South Bend area, with at least 70 acres of that block of industrial zone property being vacant. Approximately 1 mile to the southwest of the petitioner's property along Purecore Road, there's 241 acres on heavy industrial. Over 120 acres remains vacant. These properties, together with the petitioners, include approximately 585 acres of property within 1 mile of each other that are zoned either heavy industrial or research light industrial. The petitioner's property makes up approximately 1.4% of the land zoned industrial in this block, or in this area within 1 mile of each other. Approval of the petitioner's rezoning request will not have a material impact on the town's stated goal of preserving land for industrial development. Less than 300 feet from the petitioner's property, there are 2 tracts containing 5.3 acres collectively. They're zoned corridor commercial, the same zoning classification the petitioner is seeking. These properties are located on the southwest side of the intersection of Highway 55 and Highway 42, and to the north of the petitioner's property. These properties are surrounded by land zoned heavy industrial. Almost directly across Highway 55 from the petitioner's property, there are 2 tracts containing approximately 6 acres in total, zoned general commercial, again in close proximity to property zoned heavy industrial and research light industrial. Regarding the staff's recommendation number 3 and the existing building on the property is not currently used for industrial purposes. Furthermore, matters pertaining to the condition of the structure and suitability for the use is governed by the North Carolina General State Building Code, not the zoning regulations. According to a site plan developed by the petitioner, there are approximately 416 parking places on the property. The property has adequate size and parking for petitioner's proposed permitted uses identified in the petition. Regarding the staff's recommendation number 4, the block of properties near the intersection of Highway 55 and 42 zoned heavy industrial are surrounded by property with residential and commercial zoning classifications. Furthermore, the petition remains open to recommended use limitations. Notwithstanding, the current uses of the property are permitted in the current corridor, in the commercial corridor district, and they are not industrial uses. The LDO's stated purpose for the commercial corridor zoning district is consistent with the current and proposed use of the property. The stated standards of that district, first, is to accommodate medium-scale intensity non-residential development of a mix of convenience services, retail, office, and limited institutional uses. The property currently is a multi-tenant facility containing a mix of non-residential uses. With the addition of the church, it would include a limited institutional use. This standard is satisfied. This district is generally located at intersections designated as an urban center with arterial roads, parkways, boulevards, and major thoroughfares. The petitioner's property has access to both Highway 55 and Highway 42 and is located in the intersection of these two major thoroughfares. Furthermore, the town's transportation plan calls for a realignment of Highway 55 and 42 that will result in the petitioner's property being located even closer to the intersection of these two major thoroughfares. Another standard of the CC district is that it generally is intended to be located within 1 to 1.5 miles from neighborhoods in the vicinity of this district. Residential neighborhoods within 1.5 miles of the petitioner's property include, without limitation, Lakestone, Willow Creek Pud, Holly Ridge off Old Honeycutt Road, Harrison Place, Parton Place, Roland Pond, Miller's Creek, South Lakes. This standard is clearly satisfied. Another standard of the CC district is a single use will occupy no more than 50,000 square feet of gross floor area, and property designated for CC zoning district developments are greater than less than 20 acres. Current individual uses do not exceed 50,000 square feet of gross floor area. Petitioner's property is greater than 6 acres and less than currently used on the petitioner's property. This standard is clearly satisfied. The current proposed use of petitioner's property is consistent with and satisfies all of the standards of the commercial corridor zoning district. At the pre-submittal meeting, the town staff informed the petitioner that there was no need for a land use map amendment. Subsequent to the filing of the rezoning petition, staff requested that the petitioner file a land use plan amendment for the smaller tract located off Highway 42 so that its land use classification will be the same as the larger tract. The petitioner did file a land use map amendment at the direction of the staff. At no time until the publishing of this agenda item for tonight's meeting has staff raised an issue regarding the land use plan consistency. It is the petitioner's position that based on the previous staff recommendations, the property's consistency with the standards of the commercial corridor zoning district and the guiding principles and provisions of the town's land use plan, that this rezoning petition is consistent with the town's land use plan and
John, we've lost you.
I'm going to give him about 30 seconds to reconnect. And if he gets,
Unfortunate time to get logged off.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was doing so well, too.
Let me see if I see him.
He hasn't been able to log back on? Okay, if he comes back on, we'll give him another opportunity. In the meantime, we'll try to get additional voices. Could we get is there anyone else with their hand raised? Anyone else wish to speak in favor?
Yes. I'll stand by. All right. Tristan Balcom, please unmute your mic.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Awesome. The gentleman that was just speaking
Oh,
previously
could you
probably
please,
cannot connect.
could you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. My name is Tristan Balcom from 9909 Joe Leach Road, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27603.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. The gentleman that was just speaking previously may not be able to connect because actually a lot of people have not been able to connect because we're at maximum capacity. Every time you click the link to try to log back on, excuse me, I'm sorry, it tells you that you cannot. So if he's not connecting, I'm wondering if that's why, as it looks like there is a limit of how many people can be here.
Understand. Thank you.
And I had a comment about from the very beginning where it was discussed that there were concerns about safety. And prior to the gentleman just getting disconnected, it seemed like he was addressing all those different elements that were raised in objection. But I can't quite understand, as it wasn't even stated, other than that there is a question of health, safety. What in the world would that be? Like, what is the concern there, given what is already currently in that building? We have a gymnastics studio, I believe, in there. There's a dance studio. There's all kinds of companies that are already occupying that space. So I'm wondering what health and safety issues you see that you would raise objection to.
Okay, Tricia, just to let you know, the public hearing is for you to voice your opinion. It's not really a question and answer type of a forum, but we've heard you.
Totally okay, I completely understand. Then I guess I would just put that out there because that was never stated. So in response to that, I would say that there is no concern there, and I really hope that that gentleman gets back in so that it is very clear that all the different points that he was already making. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Eckott's back on.
Okay, go ahead and connect him.
John, please unmute your mic.
Okay, I'm back. I apologize. I got kicked off for some reason. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you rejoining. You can continue if you recall where you left off.
I'm not sure where I left off because I'm not sure when I got kicked off, but
Yeah, you were.
we would ask that the planning board recommend.
We were talking about land use, the land use plan change. I think you got through most of that discussion. Just to center you on what we've heard here.
Yeah, it is the petitioner's position that based on the previous staff recommendations, the property's consistency with the standards of the commercial corridor zoning district and the guiding principles and provisions of the town's land use plan, that this rezoning petition is consistent with the town's land use plan and transportation plan. And we would ask that you recommend approval for this rezoning petition.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in favor?
We have several more hands raised. Angeles Gannon, please unmute your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Happily. My name is Angeles Gannon. I'm at 4232 Glen Summit Court, Apex, North Carolina. That's in the unincorporated part of the county adjacent to Fuquay-Varina. I have been attending Church Alive for about 12 years, and I am petitioning the planning board to recommend approval of our petition for converting that land to light industrial use for the following reasons. If most of you have been in Fuquay any length of time, you have probably heard of Church Alive. We have been a presence in Fuquay-Varina for a while, at least 15 or plus years, and in surrounding communities of Holly Springs, even longer than that. We are a body of believers, 1,500 people plus strong, most of whom live in Fuquay and pay taxes in Fuquay. We are the type of church that does a lot of local outreach. We have put hundreds, if not thousands, of pairs of shoes on underprivileged children with our annual back to school backpack and sneaker ministry that we do. We feed hundreds of families every year for Thanksgiving. We go around at the holiday time and bless our first responders with treat baskets. We try to be a blessing in the community. We leave places that we occupy, whether long-term or temporarily, better than we found them. And to speak to the safety issue that Ms. Baucom brought up and was first given as a reason against this recommendation, if there are safety concerns in the building, why wouldn't you want an organization that is about improving things and making them better, getting into this building, taking that old warehouse that's showing its age, including the surrounding parking lot, and improving it and making it a centerpiece of that area, attracting families and blessing the business tenants that are in there? All those small businesses are going to benefit from our planned improvements in terms of just beauty, a better parking lot, more people attracted to all the things that they offer there, new families coming in and taking advantage of the services that they offer. Also, as people move to this area, we've all seen the growth. The human need comes with it. And that is something that is more important than just improving the property values and blessing small businesses, is what we offer people, the human factor, the need of people. There are always going to be hurting people. And historically, it's been religious organizations like churches and nonprofits that have met the needs of hurting people efficiently, lovingly, and with no cost to taxpayers or local government. And we would be a presence in that building to minister to hurting people for free, of our own volition. It doesn't have to be forced. And for those reasons, I believe that we would be a blessing in that business, in that warehouse. I ask you, please, give us a chance, and you will not believe what this community of people, what this leadership team that comprises the Church Alive pastor team can do with something that's old and needing revival. We are perfect. We are a perfect fit for that community. And we ask you to please consider passing this resolution, this petition. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. We have a few more hands raised. Jason Barron, please unmute your mic. Jason, please unmute your mic. There you go.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Planning Board. Jason Barron with Morningstar Law Group, 421 Fayetteville Street, Suite 530, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27601. Pleasure to be before you tonight, albeit virtually, to present on behalf of Church Alive of Fuquay-Varina. Appreciate the testimonies that you've heard from some of the folks who go to the church, and would reiterate the substance of the presentation that you received from Mr. Adcock, which I thought was very thorough and outlines from a zoning standpoint why this requested zoning classification makes all of the sense in the world. I'm appearing before you tonight on Church Alive's behalf because it and honestly, it's troubling. I'm a member of the Wake County Planning Board, and I don't think I've ever appeared before a planning board with the message that I'm getting ready to give you, and that is, it certainly appears, based upon a well-established pattern of behavior, that the town has demonstrated a practice of placing an unnecessary and substantial burden upon religious uses with a discriminatory intent. As this board will recall back in 2020, there was a proposed change to the town's Unified Development Ordinance that went through the process related to cross-access. I got engaged in that time on behalf of Hilltop Baptist Church, who had concerns associated with health, safety, and welfare related to that bundle of changes that was recommended at that time. Hilltop was at the table with a number of other churches who expressed a similar sentiment. That was my first engagement with the town of Fuquay-Varina on a matter such as this. I was then contacted by Church Alive related to what can only be characterized as a retaliatory text amendment that was initiated by the town of Fuquay-Varina in the middle of January of 2021, 3 short weeks after Church Alive, through the property owner of this subject petition, had requested a rezoning amendment that would have been essentially nullified had the town proceeded with the text amendment as was proposed at that time. Fortunately, the town has since withdrawn the religious assembly and religious uses portion of that text amendment. However, we're back at the table, unfortunately, because now that it appears that the town staff is willing to recommend denial of a corridor commercial conditional zoning district that the staff actually recommended, from what we understand, recommended that the petitioner seek as part of its rezoning request. Again, I regret that I have to be here on Church Alive's behalf, but I feel this board and ultimately the Board of Commissioners needs to understand that this pattern of behavior on behalf of the town is troubling. It's hard for me and my client to deduce anything other than the fact that the town is out to get churches. And that sounds silly saying it out loud, but again, there is a clearly established pattern of behavior going on right now at the town administration level. We believe, based upon Mr. Adcock's presentation, that the zoning petition is consistent with the land use plan, and we would respectfully request that this board recommend approval of this rezoning case to the Board of Commissioners. Thank you. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, we have another hand raised. Steve, please unmute your mic.
Yeah, my name is Stephen Gay. I'm at 99 Rocky Water Drive, Fuquay. My question not a question, but a statement. Had the lady who had her concerns provided any data rather than her opinion about her concerns, then she may have a valid point. But without any data to support some potential thing happening, and it's never happened in the city of Fuquay, it's never happened in Wake County, never happened in the state of North Carolina, then the attorney that just spoke sounds very accurate. This is a personal bias against the church. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. We have a few more hands raised. This is showing up as SG. Please unmute your mic.
Hello, my name is Sarah Gomiller. I'm at 5904 Shed Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27603. I just wanted to voice my approval or my request, my affirmation that this request be approved. And also just to say that if there is a discriminatory action by the town of Fuquay, I am against that and would appreciate more information if there's some reason why they feel like they cannot approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. We have another one. Russ, please unmute your mic.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Russ Zazek. I'm at 221 Pope Lake Road, Anger, North Carolina. And I have been going to Church Alive for about 18 years, and I work with the children. And noticed that the building that is at question has little kids in it all the time. And if it's considered to be the way it's currently zoned, unsafe for people to be in and out of there, it doesn't make sense to me that, it's a place where little kids are in and out of gymnastics and jiu-jitsu and all that kind of thing. So I would say I'm very much in favor of approving the zoning change because I work with the kids at church and I love kids, and it's a place that I would love to see more children in and out of all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in favor of this zoning plan map amendment and land use plan amendment? And I would ask that everyone that speaks try to speak to new issues. We're going over some existing issues that have already been brought up in the public hearing. In the interest of keeping it brief and to the point, let's go ahead and try not to repeat items from previous.
Mr. Chair, but also if anyone is joining via Zoom and you do not wish to speak for or against, if you would please switch over to our YouTube channel. We're maxed out. We want to make sure everybody has the chance to get on. So the the quick address to the YouTube channel is fuquay-varina.org/live. That way other people can get on the meeting if they wish to speak. Thank you. And the next person up is Glenn Lee. Please unmute your mic.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name and address for the record.
Okay. Yes, thank you. My name is Glenn Lee. My address is 8109 Still Breeze Drive, Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina, 27526. I would like to introduce myself as the pastor of Church Alive, founding and lead pastor of this great church for 20 years. Church Alive has worked diligently to be a positive and powerful impact in not just Fuquay, but this entire region. We believe, and I believe, Church Alive can utilize this facility to help Fuquay-Varina at several levels, including feeding the poor, clothing the needy, educating students who are coming out of the ward of the state that are in foster care and preparing them to own their own businesses, how to do a resume, how to present themselves, and to put them on a path of success. The last thing I would like to say, I in no way want to fight the city of Fuquay-Varina. I love this city. I live in this town. I believe in this town, and I believe in the houses of worship and the faith community in this town.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. We have Heather. Please unmute your mic.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. State your name and address for the record, please.
This is Philip Zampino. I live at 2530 Belvinwood Drive in Fuquay-Varina. I just want to express my desire to see this petition approved, if for no other reason than that it sounds like the petition is requesting the zoning that was proposed or recommended by the planning board. I don't understand why a zoning would be recommended only to be rejected. So I just wanted to raise that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Scott Prowl, please unmute your mic.
Hello, my name is Scott Prow. I live at 2601 Timothy Drive, Fuquay-Varina, 27526, and I am in favor of having this amendment approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, Chris, please unmute your mic.
Good evening. My name is Early Ianello. I am at 728 Seastone Street, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27603. While my address may be Raleigh, I am a business owner in the Garner area, and I do a lot of business, a lot of travel through Fuquay on a daily basis. As a person who likes to spend my money where I live and have community, I would think that the tax dollars from the businesses, I have 4 children, that are in that particular facility and being able to generate more revenue, more income to that facility from based upon the members, the big membership of Church Alive would be a benefit to the town. As a business owner, I actually think it would be amazing to have a church community in the same building as myself, because I would feel it would bring me great peace in knowing that these people will probably also do business, more business in the town. Even people who do not live currently in Fuquay, you've heard from people in Apex and in Raleigh and in Angier. We all do business in Fuquay. Our tax dollars, we paid some tax, sales tax, whatever it may be, to the town of Fuquay. I believe having a church there would only benefit all those surrounding businesses, especially because those businesses mostly cater to families. I'm highly in favor of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Mimi, please unmute your mic.
Hey, everybody. This is Melody Scruggs. I am a local business owner here in Fuquay-Varina. I live at 260 Von Cannon Drive in Fuquay-Varina. I own a local entertainment company, the Melody Maker Entertainment, and we provide all kinds of entertainment for the kids here in Fuquay. I do a lot of town concerts as well as a summer camp at Fuquay's Community Center. And I am super excited to have this zoned in our favor. I've been at Church Alive for 18 plus years. My daughters have all been to youth services at our church. And I'm just really excited to have some awesome activities for the kids here in Fuquay. You know, I feel like all the years that I've been here in Fuquay, there just has really not been really enough fantastic services and fun things for kids. So between all of the constant activity that Church Alive provides for our kids in our community, as well as the dance and rock solid warrior and jujitsu, we've got some other exciting plans for kids in our community. We just need a whole lot more fun stuff for our kids in this area, in our communities, to keep our kids busy and safe. So I am really hoping and praying that you will to vote on our behalf so that we can zone this and have a whole lot more fun activities and safe things for our kids to get involved in. Thank you for considering to rezone in our favor.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Danielle Lutz, please unmute your mic.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Please state your name and address for the record.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Can you hear us?
My name is Dustin Lutz at 4908 Sugar Grove Drive. My wife and I are new members at the Church Alive, and we support the zoning because we believe strongly that we've seen the church, all the ability they have to cross all age groups, especially young adults. We believe that will really help the town of Fuquay-Varina grow right now, currently, and set it up for a very positive future, because they're going to build that foundation with the young adults, and they can learn from just everyone at the church, all different age groups. It's a wonderful thing. And they can take that knowledge and just take it out and be positive influences in the city. Business owners, there's just no limit to it. So we really support the rezoning, because we believe that the church is going to set, be a beacon of light in the city and help generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Michael, please unmute your mic.
Yes, sir. This is Michael Farr. I live at 2534 Christian Light Road in Fuquay. I'd like to petition the board in favor of the church. I am a member, and when you look at it, we're not bringing in anything nefarious. Okay, I mean it's not any kind of activity that's going to be degrading or non-beneficial to the community. All I can speak of is what I've seen since I've been a member of the church. And what I speak of is things I've seen with my own two eyes. I've seen suicidal people that are here with us today because of the impact that this church had on their lives. I can speak of the impact that it's had on my life, how it's changed my life. I've put food myself into the hands through this church of people who had nothing to eat. So I really don't see where there's anything to warrant not allowing the church to occupy that space. Thank you.
Thank you. We have anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Marcus, please unmute your mic.
My name's Marcus Woodring. I'm at 943 Blue Garden Lane in Willow Spring, 27592. I just want to say that I've been a part of Church Alive for ongoing about 8 years now, and that our oldest son also attends Rock Solid Warrior, which is in the same building that the church wants to occupy. And so I just want to kind of tag on the fact that I don't see any existing hazardous issues or anything like that. And just I am in favor of the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, please, we've heard a lot of good things from the members of the church. Please, if you're going to add something of value that we haven't heard already, please feel free to discuss this. I don't want to cut anybody off, but also, please provide something that is going to be useful and different to this planning board. And I'd appreciate that. That's focused on the zoning map amendment and the land use plan amendment, if you could. Thank you. And do we have anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of the zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Robert, please unmute your mic.
Hi, yes, this is Robert Palmieri. Address is 406 Branchmore Court, Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina, 27526. I just wanted to express to the commissioners here, to the board, that I am in favor for the rezoning. I actually had the opportunity to speak with some of the businesses that are located within the property, and they have expressed that they are also, in fact, in favor of Church Alive residing and owning the building at the resident address. So I just want to also say that I, too, am heavily vested in the church since September of 2002. And as you've heard previously, Church Alive also has invested heavily in this community. And I do believe that the board today will make the right decision in regards to this rezoning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in favor of the zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Nora Sherwood, please unmute your mic.
Hi, my name is Nora Sherwood. I reside at 7821 Charters End Street in Willow Spring. And most of the things have already been said, but I just wanted to come on here to represent Church Alive and to thank y'all in advance for approving this amendment. I really appreciate it. You won't regret it. Church Alive is amazing, and it's going to be a positive, very positive impact for Fuquay. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Sherry R., please unmute your mic.
Hi, my name is Sherry Rudolph. I live at 2029 Quarter Horse Drive in Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina, and I am in favor of the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Craig Berry, please unmute your mic.
Hello, I come to you, Craig Berry. I'm live at 422 Banneker Lane, Fuquay-Varina. I come to you both as a member of Church Alive, but also a homeowner. Very close to where this building is. Lived in Lake Stone Village for 10 years. I welcome the having a owner that wants to invest in that corridor. That Highway 55 corridor seems to be buildings somewhat have been run down. And from a homeowner's perspective, I have actually avoided driving that way because the roads are rough, the buildings look rough, everything there seems to be old and run down. I would think as a town, we would welcome a tenant or an owner who would like to invest in that corridor and upgrade it, bring life back to that corridor. So I would hope that we would approve this amendment going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of the zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Jen Prowl, please unmute your mic.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Prow. I live at 2601 Timothy Drive, Fuquay-Varina, 27526, and I just wanted to voice my approval. I am in favor of the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of the zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Lynn Arnett, please unmute your mic.
Hi, this is Lynn Arnett. I live at 920 Sequoia Ridge Drive, Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. We need more multicultural organizations in Fuquay-Varina. We need organizations that can help heal and bring unity to this community. And Church Alive has that at its heart. So I'm in favor of this zoning.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. KJ Van, please unmute your mic.
Good evening. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. My name is Ty Vanoy. I live at 608 Vanoy Place in the Cottonwood Development, Fuquay-Varina. And I'm in favor of making the zoning changes for this building for the youth. I've been a member of Church Alive for 11 years, and I've also worked in Wake County for 20 years in local government. I retired from over in Holly Springs, so I understand some of the community and town issues on this, and I think the two attorneys earlier made some very good salient points, and these things are fairly well known, and to deny the zoning request would very possibly have unintended consequences and negative publicity on the town. And as a taxpayer and resident here, that's something I'd rather not see. So I am in favor of allowing this zoning to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in favor of the zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Michelle Stanley, please unmute your mic.
Hey there, can everyone hear me?
Yes, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes. This is Michelle Stanley. I live at 19 Atkins Road, Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina. I just wanted to say I am born and raised. I am a local here from North Carolina. I'm from Fuquay-Varina. I come from a small business here in Fuquay that was started by my grandfather. And I wanted to express that I'm pretty disappointed. I understand the town's concerns with this, but I think that it would be a really bad idea to deny this. I'm a small business owner myself up in Apex, but my family here is local in Fuquay, small business owner, and I'm just really super disappointed in what it has come down to with the town with this. So I'm in favor of approving the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Jason Bennett, please unmute your mic.
Yes, my name is Jason Bennett. I live at 292 Avery Pond Drive in Fuquay. And I just wanted to point out that we've heard a lot of people tonight speaking from all over the region, that people that would bring revenue to the town of Fuquay. And we've heard from many people, like I said, from many areas, including Raleigh, Apex, Angier, Willow Spring, Garner, Johnston County, Cary, Holly Springs, Clayton, Lillington, Dunn. The list goes on and on. I actually moved my own family to Fuquay 3 years ago because of Church Alive and because of its ministry. And so I just want to speak. I just want to speak in favor of rezoning, the rezoning amendment, and thank you for allowing me that opportunity.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Victoria Hill, please unmute your mic.
Hi, we are Shay and Etoria Hill of 221 Timber Meadow Lake Drive in Fuquay-Varina. And I want to say not only are we a resident of Fuquay-Varina, but we're also business owners as well. And as business owners, we request approval of the rezoning in favor of Church Alive. I also attend a Church Alive, and we moved our family from Holly Springs to Fuquay. We've been here 12 years, and we love it here. And I am a witness to speak to the fact that there are other families that have moved here. So not only will the rezoning benefit Church Alive, it'll also benefit the town in Fuquay in terms of positive growth and revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of the zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Kimberly, please unmute your mic.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Cassiopo. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, please state your name and your address for the record.
Yes, my name is Kimberly Cassiopo, 3608 Tartancroft Place, Fuquay-Varina. I am a broker here in Fuquay-Varina. I've lived here for over 5 years. My husband and I have a nonprofit that we serve all of the community, including Wake County. My husband is a professor at Campbell Medical School. He does outreach there and works with all of our agricultural people and different people in this area, offering free services, taking the students out to serve everyone in our community. And we joined Church Alive a year and a half ago. And I just want to speak to the real estate portion of this also. I have taken tons of clients around Fuquay to help them find locations for their businesses, to purchase homes, to build homes. This town is growing, and we have a great opportunity to really enhance what is already here, to enhance the family life that we have here, to draw people in. They're looking for safe havens. They're looking for places of diversity where they can raise their children. And I think Fuquay offers everything that these families are looking for. And as one of the members had spoke earlier, driving down 55, there's areas there that are a disaster. They're a mess. And this particular building, the parking lot, it's a mess, just pulling in off the street. And Church Alive is offering to come in and clean that up, to beautify it, to put beautiful trees out there, all kinds of things that would just be impressive to the people of this community and the new people coming in looking to put their tax dollars into our community, which would grow our parks, our school systems, everything else is here. So I do vote in favor of supporting Church Alive and the amendment that they're requesting. And I'm sure through all of this, everybody will make the best decision that will benefit our congregation, the families, the future families of our church, and this town. I thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning plan, map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, Sean Hatley, please unmute your mic.
Hello?
Sean Hatley, please unmute your mic. Sean, please unmute your mic.
Okay, is that it?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah,
we can.
So Sean
Please.
Hatley,
Yeah.
4768 Swordfish Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina. Me and my family are in favor of passing both amendments in favor of Church Alive.
Thank you. Again, this is a public hearing. We're looking for information. Please, if you don't have actual information to give, I would appreciate you allowing time. Eventually, we're going to have to deliberate this. So again, please, if you have something to add, you're more than welcome. This is the opportunity to do so. But please be adding to the public hearing and to the conversation if you can. Do we have any more in favor of the zoning map amendment and the land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Sue Odorian, please unmute your mic.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Adorian. I live at 1220 Mallard Creek Court in Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina. I've been a resident of Fuquay for over 17 years, and I've seen so many properties within the town be rezoned for multiple use. It would appear the whole vision of Fuquay is this multiple development criteria. And it would appear to me that not approving this particular property that we're talking about would go against the vision of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of the zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Susan Doyle, please unmute your mic.
Good evening. My name is Susan Doyle. My address is 2124 Watermarsh Trail, Fuquay-Varina. We are a military family having recently moved from Virginia, and we've seen firsthand how these small town decisions impact a state's overall health. I would like to speak in favor of the amendment for the countless families relocating to Fuquay-Varina to avoid these specific types of overreach. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Tyler Hoskins, please unmute your mic. Tyler Hoskins, please. You're unmuted. You can speak.
Can't hear it.
You're unmuted. We just can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep. There you go.
Now we can. Yes, please state your name and address for the record.
Tyler Hoskins, 290 Crane Way, Bun Level, North Carolina, 28323. And yes, you did hear that right, Bun Level, North Carolina. My family and I choose to make the drive passing multiple places of worship to go to Church Alive. And we do that because of what they bring to everyone that they have an impact on. So we bring our business to Fuquay. We did live in Fuquay, and we choose to go there and make that drive. And in doing so, we also bring our business to the town of Fuquay, which we love to. So I vote in favor of this amendment, or this rezoning.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. We have several more hands raised. Vicky, please unmute your mic.
Yes, my name is Victoria Papke. I live at 196 Laurel Brook Court, Fuquay-Varina. And I too am a member of the church, but one thing that I have not heard anybody speak about yet is the fact that the church itself is also multi-generational. I'm an older member of the church, and I've been going there for about 10 years with my husband, but we have seen not only young ones and teenagers and young adults, but also middle-aged and grandparents, all families coming to this church. We've also seen the Spanish, African-American, white. It's all a multicultural church. It is true, Fuquay-Varina, when I first moved here, had 13,000 people as its population. It is now up to 30,000 people. That's from 2019. You see housing developments, we see all sorts of influx of all different kinds of people with all different kinds of income. And yet, Church Alive has always been a church that welcomes you no matter what kind of status you have. It would be a wonderful welcome to have it in the city of Fuquay, because it just draws families together, it draws children, it draws the elderly. And I just wanted to mention that. I think that would be a wonderful blessing for the church to be in the city. And ask that you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, sir. Vince D., please unmute your mic. Vince D., please unmute your mic.
Okay. Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes. GJ White, please unmute your mic. Your mic's unmuted. Please speak.
Okay, on to the next one, if there is one. Again, I would remind you to please be adding something additional to the actual zoning and land use plan amendment that we're discussing. It would be appreciated. Understand the love of church, but we need to get onto some business.
Okay, Michael Fortner, please unmute your mic.
Yes, this is Michael and Kimberly Fortner. We live at 1520 Pagan Road, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27603. Been attending Church Alive about 7 years. We actually used to do all of our shopping, all of our eating in Garner, but now that Church Alive is in Fuquay, we've actually shifted all of our business to that area. And I think it would be a great thing to go ahead and pass this amendment because we love it there, and I think it'd be super beneficial to the town to continue to have our business.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Vince D., please unmute your mic.
Yeah, he seems to have some technical issues.
Okay, Luke Williford, please unmute your mic.
Hey guys, Luke Williford here, 7816 St. Anne's Way, Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina. I just wanted to put in, I'm a business owner. I own the Wash House Laundromats, which we have a location here in Fuquay. I'm a member of Church Alive, as well as if Church Alive gets this building, our corporate headquarters is now in Raleigh, where we our corporate headquarters for over 70 locations in North Carolina. We'll be considering moving that to Fuquay-Varina if Church Alive gets this and the rezoning is done. So I strongly encourage you guys to let's get this rezoning done so we can move forward. And as others have said, this is going to impact generations and people. At the end of the day, it's about people. So think about that when you make this decision. And I'm believing we're going to go the right way. Thanks for my time.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Okay, try one more time. GJ White, please unmute your mic. Your mic's unmuted, but we cannot hear you.
Okay. Do we have any, what's the queue look like? Do we still have a long queue?
We have one more retry after
Okay.
this. Actually, we had another person.
Okay.
Vince D., please unmute your mic.
Okay, yeah, we're not hearing him.
And Chad Henderson, please unmute your mic.
Hey, thanks. Chad Henderson, 109 Bobby Drive, Garner, NC 27529. Just want to go and talk about a little bit about our economic development. And we drive from Garner for about 30 minutes every week, spend money in Fuquay. Just want to bolster what other people have said. I know you asked for new information. I apologize if I'm repeating what others have said, but we shop in Fuquay. We've grown to love Fuquay as a town, even though we live in Garner. So I just want to vote in favor, if you will. Also, I know that Church Alive is really helping to mend race relations and really working hard. It's a multicultural church with races. Many nations are represented in the congregation. So that is extremely important, I feel, to the area to have that and in the forefront. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got two more people in line. Let's go ahead and get those through, and hopefully we can move on. Speaking in favor of the zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment.
Gabe White, please unmute your mic. Gabe White, please unmute your mic.
We can't hear you.
They're not unmuting their mic.
Okay.
And the other one's one more retry. Vince D.
Okay. Give Vince one more try.
Vince D., please unmute your mic.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Vince,
Hello?
we can hear you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Vincent Demondi, 5505 Spence Plantation Lane, Holly Springs, 27540. Thanks for your patience, guys. Third time's a charm. My family is a member of Church Alive. It has been for a number of years. I think in any kind of consideration for a land use plan for a town, it's about the quality of life and the kind of services that the town provides for its townsfolk. And I think there's three aspects of this that I'm voting in favor of. I want you guys to seriously consider. Number one, the community and how the community of Fuquay benefits from community service that the church does. The church is very much involved in community service, supporting the police, supporting various civic activities, been involved in parades, have been involved in hot air balloon things, have been involved with outreach, providing tennis shoes to disadvantaged families, providing turkeys at Thanksgiving. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is the spiritual component of having a vibrant community that values spirituality. And third is the overflow effect of having this church in Fuquay. I'm from Holly Springs. You've heard from people from all over this part of North Carolina saying they come to Fuquay, they go to church, they eat out afterwards, they do their grocery shopping while they're in Fuquay, they buy gas in Fuquay, they spend their money in Fuquay because Church Alive is there. And so those are three reasons that I think you guys should vote this land use plan in favor of Church Alive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of the zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, I have a retry. Gabe White, please unmute your mic.
Hey, can everybody hear me?
Yes. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Gabriel White. I live at 3110J County Line Road, Andrew, North Carolina, 27501. And I operate a business here locally inside of Fuquay, and I would like to state that I think Church Alive, I get a lot of revenue from Church Alive, the people in it, and I help a lot at the church itself. And Fuquay does as well. It's a church of over 1,000 people. That's 1,000 people in Fuquay and from around Fuquay who spend their money, who come to Fuquay every week, sometimes 3 or 4 times depending on the week. And I think that the town of Fuquay just would benefit from having a church occupy that building because they want to clean it up, and we're granting all these housing developments to come in, and people need somewhere to go to church, somewhere to spend their free time, somewhere to get to know people and connect with the local community. And this church would be one of many great places to do that.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment?
We have one more hand raised. Jenny Dickerson, please unmute your mic.
Hi, my name is Jenny Dickerson. I live at 96 South Sunset Ridge Drive, Willow Spring, 27592. I am in favor of the rezoning for Church Alive. And I guess my point is just that I was a caseworker in foster care for a number of years. And Church Alive could be a wonderful resource to foster children aging out of the system. One of the greatest needs for foster children once they age out is support. And that's a great lack in the community. So I just really believe that that if that is an opportunity that, it would be a huge asset to the community. The foster children, when they age out, either end up homeless, on drugs, or returning back to the place where they were removed, where they were abused or neglected. And it's just a great, it's a need. And I know that we would provide that as a resource to those that are in need. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of the zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
We have one, I believe it's a repeat person, Angela Gannon.
So they already spoke. No, I think we've heard enough from everyone. So, yeah, we normally don't allow somebody to come back. Okay. Then moving on to opposition. We need to give the opposition an opportunity. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment? Anyone in opposition to this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
There are no hands raised.
No hands raised. Okay. Public hearing is now closed. Thank you, everybody on the board, for your patience. I realize those are always good. So, we have this, I think we probably need to open it up a little bit for discussion because we do have a staff recommendation for denial. Obviously, I look at it and there seems to be some other things. Planning Director Davidson, is there anything else that you would like to add to after this discussion? Anything you would like to clarify for the planning board? And then I think we'll open it up for questions because I think some of us probably have some that we want to follow up on.
Sure. I think the key here to remember is it's not whether we are in support or not in support of Church Alive or places of worship in general. This rezoning is getting down to the meat of, is place of worship an appropriate use in an industrial building? Place of worship is not a permitted use in either light industrial or heavy industrial. This is currently a heavy industrial building. Indoor recreation, the other uses in this flex space are permitted uses, and the way that the flex space is written is that you may have a variety, a mix of uses in a flex space, but they all have to be permitted uses within that zoning district.
Okay. Anybody want to start with some questions or any comments?
I have several.
Yes, please go ahead. Let's work out the issues and see if we can come to something we can recommend. Because remember, what we're trying to do is make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. We're an advisory board. We're just going to try to make a good recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. So that's what we're trying to get to.
Yeah, and it sounds like the staff pulled the town board did not vote on the amendment for the LDO to remove the places of worship from kind of what we talked about last planning board meeting where they were going into the O&I district, and that wasn't voted on from the county commissioners. It sounded like that was pulled back. So I guess I have a couple questions. One is we're not voting on a church here, we're voting on whether this should be corridor commercial.
Yeah.
When you just look at it, it's on two major thoroughfares. So that does scream kind of a corridor area. So they've got some limiting usages that have been pulled out that aren't uses that they don't want to include. Are there uses that they didn't include that they should have included that would be prohibited that the town is concerned with from the safety aspect, or why it wouldn't be corridor commercial? Because it sounds like that was kind of one of the biggest issues. I'm not sure. It does. It's not, I mean, there was a pretty serious allegation about the town being against churches, but it does start to look a little bit fishy when we don't go through the LDO amendment that we talked about with places of worship moving that, and then somebody wants to go to corridor commercial, and now all of a sudden we're trying to deny that when it does seem to have some logic there. So I'm trying to get the parallels between those two. If there's some uses in here that they didn't include, like to prohibit, that could make this more of a applicable, more palatable for the town. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So the list of uses that I read were all the additional uses that will be added with a switch to corridor commercial that were not permitted in an industrial zoning district. So there were substantial lists. Yeah. We did reach out. When a zoning request is submitted, we process it and do further research and reach out. We did reach out to the petitioner and request additional zoning conditions as we were looking at this, and none were offered.
None were offered. So I think that's something to consider. But I guess I would also like to ask, I mean, they basically said during the pre-app they were recommended to go to corridor commercial or general commercial. I mean, that's pretty strong when we come in, and then that's what they come in for, and now we're requesting to deny it. So.
Right. When they first approached me, they asked about the church use, and we're told that it was non-permitted church use in the industrial district. They asked if there were any other options. And I did advise that an option moving forward was to rezone to one of the commercial districts. I mean, that was an option. Upon further research and investigation into this, we determined that this was not an appropriate use.
what if they were to include some of those prohibited uses that you'd read out, would it become more appropriate? Or I guess I'm trying to understand, is this a consistency with the land use plan, or is this an amendment, or is this an issue with the usages within that?
I think it's a combination. I think, so the land use plan, I mean, this is sandwiched in between two very industrial buildings. And so to realize that the use they are proposing, and there is no language in here specifically limiting it to a place of worship. There's a lot of uses that are wide open here. So just because a church is buying it today does not mean, I mean, this zoning will stick with this property for a long time to come.
Sure, I don't even look at it as the church, because you're approving a zoning of in the broad spectrum, and we go through that all the time with, say when you're doing a residential subdivision, you present that zoning case, you don't necessarily show a layout of that subdivision because it could be varying degrees of that.
Right, and that's the case here.
But I guess my question is there a way to come to a combination? Because if we're only going to allow them to rezone it to light industrial, that pretty much throws out places of worship for them at this current moment. At this current moment, the LDO does allow them to do places of worship in a corridor commercial. Is there a way for them to actually achieve corridor commercial with a restricted list of usages and still be trying to work together here? I also find it very interesting that we didn't really hear from Fuquay Warehouse and Storage LLC. All we heard was from Church Alive, but we can't approve or disapprove one way or the other based off of one particular entity in a rezoning case. So I guess that's kind of where I'm stuck at is we advise them that corridor commercial and general commercial could be an option for them. They come in with that. Now we're telling them it can't be. And then you guys have staff have said, hey, well, these are some uses that if you could prohibit, maybe we could get on board with it. We haven't heard any response back on prohibiting any more uses. So it's kind of like there's this back and forth that still needs to be going between the petitioner and town staff before you get to this point.
Yeah, we reached out to them several times for discussion and.
Yeah, and I think that would be an interesting point. Why is it that staff have reached out and we're not hearing anything back?
Right. Yeah, I think it's important to that we have the staff work with the petitioner closely so that we get to the point where we understand what the actual issues are on both sides. And if they essentially they stop working together, to me, when we get a denial recommendation, it means somebody stopped working together. And I would like to encourage the petitioner to work closer, because almost always we can come up with something that may or may not work, but at least we come to an understanding of where the actual significant point of disagreement is. So yeah, that's, did you have any other?
I think that's really what it boils down to me is I'm just stumped by the fact that it sounds like we're into a use issue more so than anything else.
Right, and it
sounds like there's a big disconnect between they are under the impression that they were told something, they applied for it. Right. Now we're kind of telling them not, and now we're hearing from staff that they reached back out and said, hey, well, if you do these things, maybe we can work together, and they didn't hear anything back.
Right.
And now we're expected to vote on something where I can see
right where it's clear. The problem is that there's a communication issue of some sorts, because otherwise, we've had these situations before where there were disagreements, but it was very clear what the point of disagreement was. Unfortunately, in this case, it wasn't. The mission of the church was not a point of disagreement here. So here's a question that I have. And I'm going to kind of jump in here on this. These were all warehouses, heavy industrial use. I mean, that's what they were originally built for, and what they've run for many years. There's been a conversion of this the one we're discussing, to recreational use, which dance studios and martial arts. It sounds like a couple other things like that. Soccer. Okay, so.
There's a gym in there.
I guess how do we get those in a light? And I guess to me, if it's going to be industrial, how can you have little kids tap dancing in it? I don't know how it got there in the first place. I guess
I don't see either three of these as heavy industrial. Like the building on the left is what is it? Southern Attic and it's a warehouse.
Well, that's.
But I don't see any. I don't know. When I drove by, I was surprised that it was zoned heavy industrial.
Yeah.
To me,
I think there were heavier uses before. We don't have a lot of heavy industrial uses in Fuquay-Varina anymore. And light industrials, again.
It could be a legacy thing too. You know,
Yeah.
Johnson Concrete's not too far away. That would be
Yeah,
heavy
right,
industrial,
that was, and that was, I think, and that, we saw that if there was gonna be kind of heavy industrial use, we wanted to congregate it together. I mean, that's what zoning's about, right? Putting like uses together, keeping them cozy. So we had heavy industrial for all of these three. The middle one obviously is, I mean, is the light industrial is what's really been applied. So I guess that's the question I would have, is maybe the uses that we're allowing now, maybe that has caused some confusion too, because I go in and I see kids running around. Perfect place for, I mean, I get it. Perfect place for a church, right? If you could have kids running around, why not? And so that makes sense to me. But one side of me says that's the other stuff shouldn't have been allowed at all in anything called an industrial area. And that's where I have the problem is did we, as a town, put in too many kind of customer, or commercial uses in a light industrial, and allow commercial uses in a light industrial when we maybe shouldn't have allowed commercial uses of any kind in the light industrial. So
I think, though, the reason for that is way back when it was to keep the warehouses, because the tobacco business was gone, and Jake can probably confirm that it was to keep the
Right.
warehouses, and at that time, that was the only way.
yeah, so that's a slippery slope, right?
Slippery
It was like, okay, we need to save this warehouse. We can put in, some soccer or baseball things or whatever, recreational items, and maybe that's good. But
Still seems like to me, after listening to the attorneys and all the people, it's a huge communication gap between the town
Yeah.
and these people. And I would just like to see something better than what I've heard before we have to vote on it.
yeah, no, well, I kind of want to get our questions out there, and then we'll see what our options are, because I really do want to understand what our options are as the planning board, because I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not comfortable moving forward, yes or no, right now. I think mostly because we need the communication problem fixed if we can. But does anybody else on the planning board have questions or concerns? Tracy, I appreciate your input on that.
I think we heard so many times this evening the word safety, and it even comes up in our information that we're shared about the situation. And I don't think that we are specifically saying that there's a safety issue with allowing the church in there. It's just an overall safety issue within the ordinance and the uses that are allowed and not allowed. And we have to look at the life of the property and not just this one time, because the church could be there for the next 40 years. They could be there for the next 5 years. And if we move forward with a certain zoning, then what are we going to be faced with moving into that building that will be allowed under that zoning? So I don't, that's where we're looking at the safety of the issue. We're not specifically saying that there's a safety issue with just the church moving in there.
Okay, I'll ask the town attorney, what are the options for us here from a parliamentary procedure?
Procedurally, we have 35 days from the first time we hear it to make a decision.
Okay, so we could table this, and that's.
Well, no, we're out of time now.
Well, yeah, because we tabled it last time. That's what I was getting at, was that we were kind of.
If you didn't make a recommendation, the town board can take it up.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with not making any recommendations. So we really are, at this point, on the spot to make some sort of recommendation or no recommendation. But
And you can put conditions or things on.
So, but we basically, tonight, we do need to come up with something that we can hand over to the Board of Commissioners, and hopefully will be useful for them. Our recommendation will be useful to the Board of Commissioners.
Would our recommendation have to be a land use amendment? Or could we make a recommendation that would apply just to change this?
We can make any recommendation we want, honestly. But we should probably start with what we've got in terms of what the petitioner has requested, what staff has recommended, and either something in between or something totally different is fine. But, I don't know. Do you have an idea of what kind of?
Would it be easier to take care of the land use plan amendment first and then deal with the zoning issue?
Yes, I think because there's as far as I can see, there's no controversy on that. It's really just making it meld into the land use plan amendment. So I think I would, sorry.
So if we approve the land use plan amendment, Pam, And then would the rezoning to corridor commercial be consistent with that land use plan at that point?
No, the land use plan amendment is taking that one little corner out that is currently zoned employment village.
Sure.
And making it consistent to the light industrial that the rest of the property is.
That's, yeah, what I'm asking you is then at that point, if we were to say that that's okay, are we almost contradicting ourselves if we were to come back and approve a rezoning after we've, something that's inconsistent with the land use plan? Does that make sense?
So overall.
I don't want to get into a situation where we're contradicting ourselves with a vote.
Right. Corridor commercial is not always inconsistent with light industrial, depending on the location. We feel that this location, I mean, staff feels that this location is not appropriate, but that does not make it a blanket not matched. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm just trying to wrap my head around, does staff feel like that corridor commercial would be inconsistent with the land use plan if it was light industrial? I mean, majority of the property is light industrial at this point.
Right. In this case, we feel that the light industrial use would be more appropriate just because of the neighboring properties and the existing buildings as they stand.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think there's any problem with the land use plan change, because it really, what it does is just synchronize the land use.
I just worry about setting up bad precedents where we approve a
Right,
land use
we
plan for
approve
light
it and then
industrial,
we-
but then we approve a rezoning for a corridor commercial that's inconsistent with the land use plan amendment that we just approved.
Right.
That sets up a bad standard, I think, for
Is there,
projects moving
is there
forward.
any direction that any guidance that town attorney might?
Well, we've got the two issues we've got to vote on, and we've
Okay.
got to deal with the land use issue, and then we have to deal with the petition.
Okay.
Yeah, for rezoning.
All right.
Because I'm kind of miffed at why, if they came in with a rezoning petition for corridor commercial, and that was inconsistent with the land use plan, why were both properties not, a land use plan amendment not issued for both properties? You see what I'm saying? Like,
Right. So what I just said is that corridor commercial and general commercial are not always inconsistent with the light industrial land use plan. We have a crosswalk that, and depending on the situation, potentially if this was a vacant land and it was a new development or something like that, but based on the two adjacent properties and the existing buildings currently on this, reflecting that, that's where we feel that this is inappropriate for this specific property, but it is not always inappropriate across the board. That's more on a case by case.
If we had a new property that came up and it wanted to be rezoned to corridor commercial and it wasn't in our land use plan yet, what would we recommend for the actual underlying land use be? For
Right,
corridor
so-
commercial? Would we make a recommendation of a particular one? Because I always thought there was kind of a one-for-one match. It's like.
No, there's actually a range. So
Right.
small scale commercial, I mean, there's a little bit of overlap between the commercial and the industrial districts and the commercial to commercial districts. We have.
Okay. So that's part of what's leading to the problem is that the land use itself, as it stands, the land use is not non-conforming with corridor commercial. Is that correct? The land.
Potentially, yes.
Well, potentially, there's not a, you can't do that. It's like if it was residential, we couldn't do that.
It is one of the zoning districts we would consider under.
Right. So it's a valid zoning district for corridor commercial. Light industrial is a valid land use for the zoning of corridor commercial. I think that's your point. So it's a valid one, but what you're saying is that it actually is applied case by case?
Mm-hmm.
I never actually realized that. I guess I did know that we did, because we had corridor commercial especially was along, it could be various land uses along a corridor, because we didn't always say it was going to be this general commercial or, right. But we also don't necessarily have a land use that just says commercial, right?
No, we have several.
Well, we have several that say that, so, okay. So that's kind of the other thing. I think that's to your point.
That's kind of my point. I mean, I know
Yeah.
we have different, land use plans don't always mimic the rezonings, but I was kind of confused as to matter. Hopefully we don't plan, you don't want to approve a land use plan amendment for something that's inconsistent with what's rezoning. That's
Yeah.
generally bad practice. The employment village that's next door, the usages that are allowed in there, are they more compatible with the light industrial? Or are they more compatible with the usage of commercial?
So that's a form-based
So that could be
development.
kind
So-
of both.
I mean, Employment Village is going to be definitely more commercial industrial than, they potentially could even have a small residential component. I mean,
We are making all the arguments there for it to be commercial, though. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, when you start thinking about, like what they talk about, realignment of 42, where you're on two of the major corridors. And then we got zoning for, Employment Village next door, which employment village is more geared towards that mixed use or that more that employment and commercial type usage. I don't know that I see like an industrial center going on these 3 properties. What's to stop the other 2 properties from wanting to redevelop, and then they become corridor commercial too? Now you have a much bigger pod. Just food for thought. I guess, is there any specific usage that they did not exclude? Like, I mean, you called out several. Are those all the several that the staff would say, all right, if they excluded A, B, C, D, X, Y, and J, we could stand behind corridor commercial? Or is it just a flat, the staff's not opposed to corridor commercial just in general?
So that's hypothetical, so I'm not sure if we can really answer that.
Well, I mean, we got to make a motion, and I'm just trying to figure out
if we
how
were
to
to
make a
add
motion. If
additional conditions, we'd
I'm
have
just saying,
to
we could add
get
additional conditions.
We could add additional, but again, I don't
I don't want to
see.
start adding conditions. That's the petitioner's job. That's not our job.
But the petitioner, we could, request that they consent to it. I mean, that's typically how it's handled at the town board level, if they want to offer up additional.
Yeah, but I also
Not the
see,
way,
here's the other kind of twist to this, is this isn't converting this whole property to a church. This is essentially, the church wants to own the property, and then they also want to have the use of their worship services there, while their other tenants continue to do what they do, and they're going to continue to be, just tenants, right? So you could have anything move in there that had, and that's where the real issue is, that had, if all those uses are now allowed, so in corridor commercial, there's just a lot more allowed there, and so we might end up with, I mean, we won't have tattoo parlors in there, but we have a whole raft. A funeral home could come into one, or whatever. Yeah, we brought up, or not funeral home, I guess, whatever the list that you had, banks or whatever could go in there as well. It is an extremely lengthy list of things that you can do in a corridor commercial.
That's right.
That squeezed in an old warehouse, I'm not certain is appropriate, and I think that is the staff's point, is that all of these uses are not really appropriate. The corridor commercial. The other thing is, I think that part of the communication problem ended up with, we thought that there was going to be a clear restriction on where places of worship could go in the town, and that didn't happen, so it's like, oh, oops, now we've got to kind of figure out. And I don't know that there was put a good faith effort on everybody's side to figure out, well, if that fell through, what does this look like now? If we could, but again, we're, as a planning board, this is going to be, we have to pass this off to the Board of Commissioners in some fashion.
Without tabling it.
We used up that mulligan. So
if we put restrictions, the petitioner has to sign off on it.
They would ultimately.
We could put them on here. Because I don't know that we had one representative for the petitioner. I thought we had somebody from Fuquay Storage LLC.
Yeah,
John was, but again, that probably this significant of a change would require, working with his client to figure out what the impacts would be.
What are some of the examples of restrictions?
Yeah, that's, if the.
Bar and nightclub.
That we're thinking that we want to add to the list.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, there was a whole list of conditional uses, like banquet hall, conference center, daycares, banks, restaurants, brew pubs, convenience stores. These are all things that could be there that mostly would not be allowed in a light industrial area, right? Light industrial is a much more limited list.
These are specific uses that are not allowed currently with their heavy industrial zoning district. Many of them also would be prohibited in the light industrial that would be now allowed with the commercial.
Right. So,
are we what are those uses are we concerned about with them actually doing?
Again, we have to think about the life of this property.
Yeah, I'm not thinking just for the church.
What it is today.
Are we concerned about a bank being there? I mean, are we concerned in 50 years? Is that an issue? That's what I'm asking.
Well, I think, but I guess the other point that staff made is that, we don't have much industrial land available, even in our land use plan. We pretty specifically said we want the industrials in these spots, and this 5542 area was one that was definitely called out as like, yeah, this is going to be, we may actually have some in Employment Village where we'd have more light industrial type of activities or craftsmen, or we saw that as a vision, right, for this kind of area, that this would be a maker's place, right? This is going to be where all the makers would go. You know, I think that's what the land use plan generally says about these kind of places, these kind of land use. So converting it into a thing that could be essentially a shopping center, you know, that's a little bit different than a maker's place where, you know, you have whatever the guy did making horseshoes.
And we also see a lot of times where the land use plan is developed and we have this vision, but over time things change, and oftentimes we see industrial areas redevelop and change. So is that what we are looking at for the future? I think if we look at changing one thing, then we're going to have to take into consideration this whole area eventually changing.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, because I think if you have a big regional commercial, and I think that Bell Chase is pretty consistent, pretty near here, what does that bring? And does this area that we've designated as industrial, because it made sense at one point in time, does it make sense now? Because you've brought in these other areas outside that are regional areas.
And I got to say, if there's already, you know, the gyms and the dance things, I mean, this property itself, I don't know, I honestly don't know what's going on in the other properties at this point. I probably should have paid a little bit closer attention to that, but, you know, this property itself, this has changed. You know, this property itself is doing something different.
It's a unique.
You know, the only thing that's kind of out of zone is actual place of worship, just because the way we've listed where we want places of worship. And yeah, you know, this wasn't the kind of place we wanted places of worship as a town.
And right now, I could not imagine heavy industrial going in that area.
Yeah. For me, the church is not really playing a role in it from that specific use, because I'm kind of like Michelle. We have to look at this from what could go in it. So I'm kind of stuck on if there's specific uses that could go in it in corridor commercial that is causing us heartburn. To me, that is the sticking point.
I don't see anything on the.
So I'm trying to figure out, out of the ones they've already prohibited, congregate living, government agencies, electronic sweepstakes, gaming operation, tattoo and body piercing, bar, nightclub, bed and breakfast, hotels, golf course, dry cleaner, and funeral home. Yeah. What else is there in there that we're concerned about?
Yeah, most of the other things seem very consistent with, you know.
That's the struggle I'm having.
The uses that are already there. And I think that's an unfortunate side effect of what we actually allow in light industrial.
And unfortunately,
that's an unfortunate side effect. We're going to end up with a slippery slope if we continue to allow these type of uses, you know, in that kind of zoning.
Yeah, and this list might need to be 20 deep. I don't know, but it's not really up for us to determine which specific uses outside of these 10 need to go in it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I you know.
Which would be why it would help for them to go back and talk, but can't do that.
I mean, some of those higher intensity uses are definitely auto-related. The tire sales, vehicle parts and accessories, specialized repair services, service station. I mean, those are all included.
And those are some of the things that the town would be worried about going in there. And see, I think that's where if some of those things were excluded, maybe this is not as much of a non-starter, much as a conundrum as it is. Which is what makes it difficult on us. Because I can see from the petitioner's perspective where corridor commercial makes some sense. I mean, if we're not going to do corridor commercials along our corridors, boy. And that's kind of what they were. Obviously, none of us were at that pre-app meeting, but if that's the way they were led and the path they were led down, that's a hard one to swallow.
And you're talking about a lot of people
on that. Pam, so if I ask you what I need to zone my property for to turn it into a McDonald's, you would give me a number of commercial districts that would, you know, be suitable for a McDonald's. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you think I ought to turn my house or zone my house, you know, commercial.
Correct.
So what was the question? And can you put the answer in that context?
Right, so they did come to us asking if they could do a place of worship in this current building, and they were told no, that's not a permitted use. They were asked if there were any avenues moving forward that they could do it, because they were selling the property specifically to a church, and they were told that the only avenue moving forward would be to rezone it.
And specifically
And
rezone it,
specifically to,
rezone it to corridor commercial, right?
They were
Or-
told
or a
any of the commercial districts would permit.
Any of the
this
commercial
worship,
districts.
But general commercial and quarter commercial were both technically, potentially.
Did they even look at,
compatible.
well, did they look at O&I? Or would that have eliminated the uses that they have now? I mean, it's,
Yeah, I don't think O&I would necessarily
Yeah.
check, but work with the light industrial.
oh, okay, they would still have a land use, I mean, we already have a land use amendment with it, but. they
Well, the
would
land
have-
use amendment is only for that back little corner, but it's,
Right, because, but basically, the corridor commercial allows the land use to stay essentially the same, except for that little corner. Okay.
It's always usually the second question that comes out of that, though, is what can I zone it to? You could zone it to this. Is that supported? That's usually like the second question that comes out of that whole conversation.
Yeah.
Or is it consistent with land use plan? Would you support it? Those are
Right.
usually kind of the ones that all
And
go
that's-
together.
Well, yeah,
that is something that when rezonings are submitted, they are still fine-tuned. We still work with, we communicate with management and hear feedback from the town board, and we fine-tune them to, when this first came in, it had even less conditions than it has right now. So we work with them to fine-tune it and make it something that we think is approvable. And when it can't be fine-tuned,
They just elected to come.
I gotta say, I'm at this point, it's good discussion and just where we are in this process. I almost think we need to, I would be okay going forward with what the petitioner has requested. I think they've requested it in good faith, and it also kind of reluctantly, as a town, we would be acknowledging this property has moved that way because of the usage that it currently has, and the fact that, even if the church is there right now as a non-conforming use, it felt natural for them to do that. I would almost support making that recommendation. We go ahead and do that. But I would also amend that with the kind of the usual, I would ask the petitioner specifically to continue to work with staff to try to see if they can get to a positive recommendation with the staff. Because there still will be some time between now and when the Board of Commissioners meet, where maybe they don't have to go through how wonderful the church is with the Board of Commissioners as well. But it would be good to see. Now, again, I don't know if everybody is kind of, getting to the same point I am, or if I'm all by myself here, so I'll run it around. I mean, I can see the points of and staff, I almost always support, what staff is doing, because they do an excellent job. And this is one, though, I think, just got wrapped around the axle on just a number of things. It's not really necessarily staff's issue, but I think this, from a planning perspective and what's in the interest of the town of Fuquay-Varina, that, the petitioner's request seems to be valid to me.
I would agree with you. I have a hard time. I think there does need to be some more restrictions on their usages now. What those need to be.
Yeah,
I think
and I think
needs to be
that's
worked out
where
with staff,
the staff I would put to staff to try to sort those through with the petitioner, because even if we're trying to, they can make a recommendation for more or whatever the staff is an independent. You guys are an independent function. I want you to keep that independence, but try to work with the petitioner on it.
I would hate to see the town of Fuquay get a black eye over it.
Well, yeah, and I don't think, I think, like, again, this is even different than some of the other, we've seen issues over the decade and a half I've been involved with the town. I have seen, issues a lot of times around places of worship. They can be challenging for both sides, for both the places of worship and for the town to come to common understandings. But in this case, I think the petitioner in good faith has kind of done much of what they need to do. I think it would be nice if they could work more with the town to find, get those uses maybe winnowed down even more. If it, any other comments on that, or any?
I have one question. The the part that that the town is trying to stay industrial, what size is that lot? What size is?
The little corner lot?
The little corner lot.
It is,
Pretty small.
let me check on the map.
It's teeny tiny. Yeah, the information gives the aggregate. It doesn't tell you
Yeah.
how much is in each one.
Of course, my computer's not gonna work now. Let me see if I can also look it up. Yep, hold on. 0.329 acres.
Okay, so if, you could not build industrial on that because the town has a rule that it has to be at least 2 acres, is that correct? So really
It
that
depends on
land is
your
not-
use. So if you look at the aerial photo,
Mhm.
that is the entrance road into this property right now.
Okay.
So that was one of the reasons that we felt it made sense to incorporate this into the same land use plan, is
Right.
because it's part of this property, really.
Yeah, it has to, yeah, it would have to,
So-
it could only operate as part of another
Right,
property next to
so
it.
it's not,
Right.
it's not usable as industrial.
Oh, by itself, no, not
Yeah,
not
yeah.
in and of itself.
I can see the board supporting us with moving forward with the original petition with some restrictions on it. A little food for thought, I think, for the petitioner is that the surrounding properties are currently used and zoned for something different than their intended use, and so that's just something that they're going to have to face and live with if this goes through, that they could have a use that might not be pleasurable. It might be a little smelly or messy or something that they might not be expected to, that they're thinking that they may look at because, the attic, southern attic, could change hands. It could change and it could definitely become a light industrial use at any time because that is the appropriate use and zone. So I think the petitioner just needs to take that in for food for thought as they move forward with this.
Yeah, like it could be a landscape supply company that has a wood chipper that works on Sunday mornings.
Yes.
No, I'm serious. I mean, we've had
And
problems
that's
with
some of the compatibility that we're talking about.
And I think that's the part of it, yeah. I think they also need to be careful with the town, not necessarily an accusation, but when the town looks at these from a zoning perspective, we don't look at it from, is it a church going in there? It's like Michelle said, it's all these different usages. So you're being real careful with saying that Fuquay is kind of biased against churches. That's a tough one to hear. And if that's the impression that the public is hearing, I think we need to do something on our end to make sure that that's not the perception.
Right.
We heard a lot of people talk tonight about the church. That's great. But it's not
about the church.
It's not really, I mean, we can't approve it based off of a church.
In fact, it never said church in the statements, anything that was issued to us. We are making our decisions based solely on the use.
That's right.
Not the potential of what could go in there. We never once knew before these conversations started tonight that we were even thinking about a church here.
Yeah, I mean, we heard from how many Church Alive people, but the petition's not even in Church Alive's name. So,
Right.
They don't own the property.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I understand that. I understand that they can't. But I mean, like, they're in none of the documents that we have received does it say it. That's the only thing we've really heard tonight. And while I understand the importance of that, and you understand the economic developments of all those all things are good things to hear. That can't dictate which way you decide whether something is appropriate or not because of a particular use within a zoning. The struggle I have is that it is on 2 corridors, and they were kind of maybe not guided, but that bug was put in their ear. So that's a tough one for me.
Well, not only that, but again, the uses that it currently has, it's kind of hard to argue. Oh, you've got blacksmithing right next to you. They don't. They don't have anything serious industrial in that building at all. And then even the stuff around them seems to be. Yeah.
Pam, how many rezonings have we approved in the last couple of years that have rezoned some sort of industrial to something non-industrial?
I personally don't know of any.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't recall any.
someone threw out a number that this was like 1% of the town's high industrial. Do we know how much more?
I don't know that right off the top of my head. I do know that our light industrial is much more limited than our heavy industrial zoning districts
Right.
overall.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid point. But I think the question we have to ask ourselves as a town is this one little pod. I don't know how much acreage those three make. They all look about equal in size. So you're talking about 25 acres, give or take. Is that has the way that things have grown up on 55 corridor, and with the new approval of Bella Chase, does that change our mindset, or does that really keep our mindset for light industrial? You know, we could make the argument both ways that because of Bella Chase now, do we really need any more commercial?
Well,
Or you
doing
make the
something
argument
to the
that-
middle piece drastically reduces the potential that you'll have anything on the north
That's
or
what I'm saying.
south.
We set the
So
precedent right now.
We do this and.
You set the
and-
precedent right now.
Yeah.
We're defining the future for here.
And I'm sitting here looking at corridor commercial at the intersection of NC 42 and 55.
Right, so there's already corridor commercial next to high industrial.
So the minute we,
So that won't be, that corner piece won't be a corner very long.
Yeah, that's
well,
true.
it would be a corner, but it'd be the other side of the corner, right?
No.
No.
Yeah.
No, 42 will be relocated south of those warehouses, so that corner piece that's currently corridor commercial won't be on the corner.
But it'd still be.
It'll
on
just be,
55.
it'll still be, yeah, I'm just,
It'll still be.
Just be on,
Yeah, I'm following now. I understand what you're saying.
So I would be open to, anybody else have any kind of input on that? Because I think that it sounds like we may have enough support for a motion to approve the petitioner's request with a look at the conditions.
How do you make a motion that says they have to look at the conditions?
No, we make a motion to approve and then give staff instructions to work with the petitioner. Basically, I think we could pass it as is and then present to the, I mean, we can always,
or are we
I think it's
giving?
part of the
or
motion.
part of the motion, we can give instructions to staff to.
or we
review
could
the
make a
uses.
motion to deny, and that would still allow the petitioner the opportunity to work with the staff.
That's true. That's another
revise.
option. If we go with staff, then that gives them an opportunity as well to do it. So I would like to kind of understand before we go in, who would support the petitioner's case and who would support staff's case as straight out, and so that we can make sure that we all know who, you know.
I still think we need better communication with the petitioners.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. I think that's going to happen regardless, I would hope. But, yeah, I agree that that's an issue. And that needs to be part of the motion.
And you're talking about a lot of people.
So I'm just going to do, would you support a motion to approve the petitioner's case?
I think I would.
Jay, would you support a motion? Tracy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Would you support that motion, Andy? Alex?
No.
No?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Andy, do you want to make the motion?
Not really.
Okay. Because we do need, because
But I
we have
will.
this, we do need to get it right.
The problem I have is I hate to motion to deny it. I do agree with your sentiment. I think staff does a great job and guides them in. I hate to say, but I think there's more compelling reasons to approve it than there is to deny it at this point. I think that they were given guidance, and that's the guidance they went with. And I hate to send them to town board with the denial from planning board when I really don't. If I were to lean one way or the other, I think a few more conditions excluded from corridor commercial when we get there.
Okay.
To send them on the way to deny it.
So I'll go ahead and make the motion, and that way we can.
I mean, I don't have a problem making.
No, let me go ahead. Okay, I'm making a motion that that the planning board recommend approval of REZ 2020-22, a zoning map amendment to 6109 South NC 55 Highway and 1206 NC 42 Highway from heavy industrial zoning district to the corridor commercial conditional zoning district, CZD. Also recommend approval of the petitioner's land use plan amendment to 1206 NC 42 Highway from light industrial and employment village to entirely light industrial. That part is recommended by staff. The previous part was not recommended by staff. And Also, add to the motion that staff is to attempt, and the staff is attempt to work with the petitioner to revise or refine the list of uses for the commercial corridor zoning that would apply to this property. This is in the best interest of Fuquay-Varina, I believe. Is there anything else I should add, Attorney?
I think you're good.
I think we're good. Okay, thank you. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
We do have a second.
Discussion?
Any further discussions?
Yes. Will those be two separate action items, or?
No, that will be, we'll just put it together as a unit. So I do understand that if you vote against it, that we would probably have approved the land use plan. But yeah, we'll put it all together as one fluid motion so that it can all go forward to the Town Board of Commissioners. But yeah, I understand your consternation. And
Not to keep this thing going, but Alex, is there a particular strong one you have that I'm not seeing, or maybe the other board's not seeing as well? I mean, is there something that you're seeing that we haven't pointed out?
My concern is more with the redevelopment potential of the whole area.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm still good with my second.
Okay, you're still good with your second. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion does carry. Thank you. We'll go on to the next item of business. Okay.
I know we had full capacity, so we might want to give it a couple seconds for people to filter out.
Yeah, for everybody to.
The next petitioner couldn't get on.
Oh, okay, yeah. Everybody's got that. They probably, that's what they wanted to hear, so. Please, if that was the only one you're interested in and you're still on Zoom, please say goodbye and let somebody else get on, watch on YouTube. Because we do have to go to the next item. Let me get back to that.
Scott, can you advance it?
What is the capacity?
It's not working.
I think it's like 50 or 100. Is
100?
100.
100, yeah.
We
So
were
it's
at
like,
100.
yeah.
I was watching over here.
You're a kid.
Yeah. So I was I wanted to give everybody a chance, but, okay.
That's working.
On to, well, we're going to move on to, is the petitioner able to get on now? Can you just validate that? Because he's good? The petitioner's, okay. We're going to go ahead with item 4A, public hearing. Item 4A is a zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment, A.E. Saunders Farm LLC, portion of 7621 South NC 55 Highway, pin 0675 353953, REZ 2020-20. Purpose of this agenda item is to consider a requested zoning map amendment for a total of 72.334 acres located at 7621 South NC 55 Highway from the residential agricultural RA zoning district, the residential medium density conditional zoning district, RMD CZD, and the corresponding land use plan amendment from rural residential RR to small lot residential SLR. Further information will be provided by staff.
Thank you. I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official records of the town. The subject property totals 72.334 acres and is located in the town's extraterritorial jurisdiction. The property is subject to annexation. An annexation petition is not being submitted at this time. The property is currently cleared and used as farmland. A single-family home is situated on the northern portion of the property with structures associated with agricultural uses. The zoning map amendment petition requests approval of the residential medium-density conditional zoning district, which is intended to permit proposed residential development and existing single-family detached, duplex, triplex, or quadplex residential uses. The petitioner has requested the following permitted uses be made applicable to the subject property: townhomes, attached and detached, single-family detached homes. The petitioner has requested the following site-specific conditions be made applicable to the subject property. General conditions. The neighborhood will consist of a horse farm theme emphasizing rural, agricultural, or equine features in the common area, structures, fencing, and monumentation. Common area structures will consist of a pool house that includes a fitness room and covered pavilion with a horse barn or farmhouse theme. Elements may consist of board and batten siding, a weather vane, barn-style board, and batten shutters. The outdoor pool will have at least 3,000 square feet of surface area with an associated pool deck and parking area. Additional structures will include a covered pavilion for male kiosks and a covered pavilion gathering area with outdoor sports features such as cornhole and horseshoes. The architecture will be consistent with the theme of the pool house. Other amenity areas will include a tot lot, dog park, and open lawn areas. Nature trails will provide access to common areas and provide connectivity throughout the neighborhood. Monumentation at the entrance will emphasize the community theme. Accent fencing at the entry and common areas will include split rail fencing and/or brick columns. The development will consist of single-family detached homes, attached townhomes, and detached townhomes. The townhome development will include a front garage and rear garage home. The detached townhomes will have a rear garage and will not exceed 30 feet in width measured at the front elevation. The home's architecture will consist of a modern farmhouse style and will include other appropriate home styles to encourage diversity within the neighborhood. Exterior building features may consist of board and batten siding, horizontal siding, shake, shingle, and masonry accents. Architecture details may include board and batten shutters, standing seam metal roof features, and carriage-style garage door hardware. A varied color palette shall be utilized on homes throughout the subdivision to include a minimum of 4 color families for siding and shall include various trim, shutter, and accent colors complementing the siding color. Garage doors will be painted to match the house trim or siding color or will be allowed to have an acceptable accent color. Front-facing garage doors will have either windows, decorative details, or carriage-style adornments. Garage doors that protrude more than 1 foot from the front facade or porch will have either a variation in roof form, balcony, trim window, lights, or a decorative vent over the door area to minimize the visual impact of the garage facade. To promote variation in home appearance, no home can be constructed with either an exterior elevation, front facade, or color palette that is identical to the house on either side or directly across the street from it. Variation of the front facade shall include at least 3 of the following: changes in exterior materials such as brick, masonry, board and batten, horizontal or shake siding, changes in roof lines, direction, or materials, addition of front dormers, shed roofs, or gables, variation of a front porch, balcony, covered entry, portico, or stoop, addition of decorative trim, shake, cornice, horizontal trim, brackets, or air vents, windows on gables, addition of a covered side entry, addition of shutters, window trim, or window grids, addition of a trellis or shed roof over the garage door, entry door with a minimum 25% glazing, addition of bay, transom, or casement window, architectural shingles, addition of windows, decorative details, or carriage-style adornments in the garage door. A variation of the color palette can be achieved by selecting one of the 4 available color families for application to siding, trim, shutter, and accent materials that are not used on adjacent homes. Vinyl siding is not permitted, however, vinyl windows, decorative elements, and trim are permitted. The single-family portion of the development will be developed as an open space development in accordance with the Fuquay-Varina Land Development Ordinance. The number of townhomes will not exceed 150. Private driveways will not be allowed to access NC 55 or the proposed collector drive, Denson Road, that connects to NC 55. On-street parallel parking will be allowed in the townhome portions of the neighborhood. The density of the development shall be limited to 3.25 dwelling units per gross acre. The width of the required perimeter buffer along the southern property line between lots with Wake County pins 06753399927 and pin 06755376664 inclusive will be increased to 25 feet. Existing vegetation within this 25-foot buffer will be retained, except up to 20% of this buffer can be disturbed as required to construct utilities, drainage, and stormwater treatment devices. The rear of homes adjacent to NC 55 will have variation in the roof line and include trim and shutters on the rear windows. A 6-foot-tall wooden fence shall be installed as part of the buffer along NC 55 right-of-way where homes abut the buffer. Single-family residential conditions. Single-family home types shall have crawl space, basement, or turned-down slab foundation with a minimum of 20 inches from grade to front elevation finished floor. On front elevations, the 20 inches will have masonry such as brick or stone. The side and rear of houses do not have to meet these requirements. The roof for primary structures, i.e. excluding porches and bay windows, shall be pitched at 5 to 12 or greater. Roof shall have a minimum 12-inch overhang on the sides. The side or rear elevation of the home that faces an existing proposed public right-of-way, excluding alleys, must include at least 2 of the following elements. At least 10 homes that are located at main intersections within the neighborhood will consist of at least 3 of these features: windows with shutters, masonry for at least 10% of the wall area, variation in siding material pattern for at least 20% of the wall area, bay, transom, or casement window, decorative trim, shake, cornice, horizontal trim, brackets, or air vents and windows on gables, column, porch, portico, dormer, or balcony, entry door with a minimum of 25% glazing, architectural shingles, or matching window grids. Townhouse conditions. House entrances for units with front-facing single-car garages shall have a prominently covered porch or stoop area leading to the front door. Attached townhomes will consist of a mix of 3, 4, 5, and 6-unit buildings. The roof line of attached townhome buildings cannot be a single mass. It must be broken up horizontally and vertically between every unit by staggering the unit a minimum of 24 inches or providing a minimum 8-inch vertical step between units. End units shall consist of a minimum 12-inch overhang on the sides. The side or rear elevation of a townhouse that faces an existing or proposed public right-of-way, excluding alleys, shall include 2 of the following elements. At least 3 townhome end units that are located at main intersections within the neighborhood will consist of at least 3 of these features: windows with shutters, addition of a gable, dormer, or shed roof, 2 or more building materials, decorative trim, shake, cornice, horizontal trim, brackets, or air vents and windows on the gable, masonry for at least 10% of the wall area, variation in siding material pattern for at least 20% of the wall area, column, porch, portico, dormer, or balcony, side entry, entry door with a minimum 25% glazing, architectural shingles, matching window grids. Building facades shall have horizontal relief achieved by using recesses, staggered units, or projections. Surrounding properties are generally residential in nature. The future Carolina Gardens property and the future Hidden Valley property are north and to the west of the subject property, respectively. Additional existing properties to the north and east are single-family residential. Properties to the south, located in Harnett County, are forested and single-family residential and a small airstrip. The 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan calls for the rural residential classification at the subject property. Although the requested zoning district is not consistent with the 2035 Land Use Plan classification, the petitioner has included a land use plan amendment as part of this zoning map petition, which will be described later in this report. Public utilities will be installed by the developer in conjunction with future development. The subject property has access to South NC 55 Highway and Denson Road. South NC 55 Highway is classified by the 2035 Community Transportation Plan as a 120-foot right-of-way and is identified as a 4-lane median divided with side paths with a carrying capacity of 20,200 average daily trips. 2017 NCDOT counts north of the property indicate an annual average daily traffic count of 15,000. More current NCDOT traffic counts are not available at this time. Denson Road is currently a single-lane paved driveway for which NCDOT traffic counts are not available. The petitioner held a neighborhood meeting on January 13, 2021, via the online conferencing application Zoom. The meeting report is attached, and the town staff takes no position as to its content. The 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan calls for the rural residential classification at the subject property. However, the petitioner has proposed a land use plan amendment from rural residential to small lot residential. Small lot residential is typically formed as a neighborhood for single-family detached homes with uniform housing densities. Typical densities in the small lot neighborhood range between 2 and 6 dwelling units per acre. As a result, of several neighboring developments, existing area thoroughfares are being improved to meet the CTP designated standards, and public utilities are now available, transforming the ability of the property to develop at a higher intensity than was predicted when the land use plan was adopted in 2017. This amendment supports the land use plan's recommendation CF1, invest in existing growth areas, which encourages the extension of utilities and growth of development in areas that are already in the growth process to maximize effectiveness. As such, the requested land use plan amendment is consistent with the 2035 land use plan and its vision. The land use plan amendment, if approved, would allow for the site to be developed more consistently and appropriately as it relates to the proposed use and surrounding area. Staff recommends approval of the proposed zoning map amendment with the corresponding land use plan amendment. It is consistent with the 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan and is reasonable in the public's best interest for the following reasons. Although the requested zoning map amendment is not consistent with the 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan classification of rural residential, the petitioner has opted to request a change of the land use plan to small lot residential, which is more appropriate to the surrounding use, proposed use, and location. The requested zoning map amendment is consistent with the 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan's recommendation CF1, invest in existing growth areas. The requested zoning map amendment would better conform to the surrounding uses and provide the ability to develop the property for its proposed use. I am available to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the planning board?
She deserves a raise for reading all those conditions.
Well, getting them put in, I mean, it's, this isn't even form-based, it's like, this is quite an accomplishment, actually, to get that level of conditions in.
So just equestrian themed, but not actual horses on property.
Yes. Equestrian themed.
Equestrian themed. Yeah, because I don't think you can have ponies in.
Put over 3 houses today.
Okay, we'll then go ahead and move to the public hearing. The public hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, we have a couple hands raised.
Okay.
Braxton Jones, please unmute your mic. Braxton Jones, please unmute your mic.
Do apologize, I missed first.
Yes, please state your name and address.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Please state your name and address for the record. It's a little garbled there.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes. We could.
You just muted yourself again.
All right, how about that?
There you go.
That's better.
Okay, so, thank you very much. Sorry about that. I mean, I don't drive 8421, Long Mile, Willow Spring, now represent.
Yeah, we're having some difficulty hearing you. You're garbled. We can hear you're making noise, but it's hard to understand you. Here, wait. Speak up or closer to the mic.
All right, is this any better?
That's a lot better. Thank you.
Okay, well, now we know how far we're supposed to stay. All right, again, my name is Braxton Jones, reside at 8421 Walter Myatt Road, Willow Spring, and I do represent the Saunders family, and we are in support of the project.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else?
And also, we do also have David West, who will be speaking next.
That's right. Okay, yes, go ahead. Please state your name and address for the record, David.
I'm good.
My name is David West. I live at 210 Lakecroft Place in Fuquay-Varina. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of my wife, Deborah Saunders West, and her sister, Linda Saunders Blackwelder. They are the current owners of the property. This property has been in the Saunders family for 5 generations. They have owned this property continuously for over 100 years. The family has, of course. And we are in support of this request for rezoning and in total support of Pulte's proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
Yes, we have one more hand raised. Beth Blackman, please unmute your mic.
Good evening, Beth Blackman with Timmons Group. I was just here if there's any questions. We submitted the rezoning application on the behalf of the applicant, and so we're available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment?
No more hands raised.
Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment? Anyone in opposition?
We have one hand raised. Dan, please unmute your mic.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Dan Lingenfelser. I own the property directly to the south, 2953 Tram Road, Fuquay-Varina, 27526. I have several objections, not really objections to a development there because I expect there to be a development. I understand the long-range land use plan and expected to see development back there at some point. First objection I have is really the neighborhood meeting that we had can officially be called a meeting, but I felt like it was a very non-informative meeting. The representative from Timmons could not lay out any of the details that we've already talked about here this evening, for example. So it was impossible to have it called an informative neighborhood meeting. So I think they did that because they had to have a meeting, not really to inform the people. They did it to get the box checked. Now that I've learned more from what's been presented this evening and in your agenda, I have a couple of more detailed objections. First of all, my main concern is the density. The surrounding area, for the most part, properties to the south, to the east, and north, are much lower density. 3 lots to the acre sounds not too bad to people in the city. But those of us that have lived in the rural area in the country, we moved into an area, long-range classification was rural residential, lot size, the average lot size on the south part of the boundary, south boundary, is between, well, the smallest lot is 1.5 acres. The large lot is 9 acres, and the others are in between. Okay, so it's a much less dense area. We talked about a bit the traffic on 55, 15,000 cars in 2017 with a capacity of 20,000 sounds like enough. But since 2017, we've added Hidden Valley right across the road, which I believe is targeted to have 500 houses. Now I'm expecting 500 houses will add 1,000 cars a day. The traffic is growing, folks. And I drive 55 on a regular basis. From 2017 to today, it has increased significantly, maybe not 25%. So I think there's a traffic issue with a high density population there. And I see that when I read your abstract. The staff admitted it's not consistent with the long range usage plan. Rural residential sounds much more appropriate, but yet they're recommending to make the change and to put that higher density population out into the country. So that's the first 2 objections. The really detailed objection, all these really detailed plans you commented on, I think that's great. I like the theme. I'm pretty excited about some of the topics. However, there's nothing, and one of the questions we asked that was no answer to, what's the minimum square footage of the single family dwelling units? So we know they got to have shakes and they got to have windows and they got to be a glazed door, but we don't know if that door has to be on a house that's 200 square feet or 2,000 square feet. And that does make a difference as people in the area are concerned about our property value. So I think that's an answer I'd like to get before I could be in favor of this. The other issue I see with the proposal, and I think it sounds good to people in the city where they're used to density, they are recommending a 25-foot buffer on the southern edge, which would come up against my property. And 25-foot buffer sounds good if you're used to the city and small lots. Most of the lots on there were built with a 100 or 200-foot buffer. Now, I'm not proposing that they need a large buffer like that, but a 25-foot buffer that, by the way, you can take 5% of that, so it might only be 20 feet. A 20-feet buffer is very little. So in the discussion earlier this evening, there was a lot of talk about what could be done, and once you make this change, if it's not detailed what the use is, the developer is then free to do whatever. And that's my concern here. While it sounds really good, they've left out some key details that I think need to be added. And I think they really aren't fitting into the neighborhood around them. I understand Hidden Valley is relatively dense. I don't know the exact details, but I'd like to see a usage. But it's not going to be agriculture, I understand that, and it's going to be a lot, and I'm good with that. But something less than, 3 per acre on the average, because then we're getting some pretty small lots back behind us there. Those are my primary concerns. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition to this zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment?
There are no other hands raised.
All right. Anyone else in opposition? Last chance. Okay, public hearing is now closed. I would look to the board. You had any questions, or I'd be open to a motion if we're all satisfied.
I have a question.
Sure.
Well, not really a question. I think it's worth addressing the gentleman's comments that was spoken in opposition on the buffer. The way I read the conditions was it was 25 feet additional beyond what would normally be required. Did I read that correctly, or did he state
So
it
generally,
correctly?
an open space subdivision, it's going to be a 10-foot buffer from an open space subdivision to large lot residential or agriculture. So they're expanding. Instead of 10 foot, it will be 25 feet, and they are going to be saving existing vegetation. They can take out 20% of the existing vegetation if they have to construct utilities, drainage, and stormwater. But the goal there is to expand a 10-foot buffer to 25 feet and to retain existing vegetation in that strip versus clearing it all and planting new things.
Okay.
Pam, don't it pretty much blend with everything across the road from it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and just for clarification, the allowable density in the RMD district for single-family detached can go as high as 4.36 and 6 dwelling units per acre for townhomes. So the fact that they are limiting 3.25 as the max density for the entire development does take the density down.
Right.
And are there any additional buffers required in the significant natural resources area that surrounds, or I guess on the backside of Tram Road neighborhood?
So that there are significant environmental features over there that will greatly limit to the development.
Okay, so that neighborhood's most likely going to see additional buffers and not development up next to it. Okay.
Yeah, because there's some wetlands in there.
Yeah, there's so many wetlands.
There's substantial wetlands.
I don't see how you're going to get it even within 25 feet of any properties.
The southeastern portion of that.
Yeah, the southeastern portion. Yeah.
And it does mention in here square footage. I don't know. One of the gentlemen mentioned that they didn't mention square footage at the town meeting or at their neighborhood meeting, but in the notes it does say that they don't have exact plans for the neighborhood yet, but it's going to range from 1,400 to 3,000 square feet for single family and 1,300 square feet to over 2,000 for the townhomes.
And then to completely round it out, traffic impacts may be required if there's a significant.
Most definitely. So preliminary subdivision plan will require a TIA.
Right.
And so they will be doing frontage improvements.
Right.
According to the CTP, and then any other offset improvements required by a TIA.
Right. So traffic impact analysis would be performed, and then any mitigations, anything that has to be done to fix that will happen as a result of that.
With the first phase of development.
Within the first phase of development. So I think we answered all that guy's questions then.
Right. Just to piggyback on that, do you guys know of any DOT tip projects along 55 that may we always say these things, we're gonna have to do those frontage improvements, and while that's true, then what happens going on construction drawings or go through the process, and then DOT's doing a project, and somehow fee and lieu's get paid, and then people that get told that these are gonna be the improvements don't get built, and that's why, it's
Right.
logical, but is there anything known at this point that DOT's gonna come through on 55 in this area that could, when this does get built and residents do see, and if something doesn't get done, the reason it doesn't get done is because DOT's already got a plan, and we don't want to tear something out that's already been done. However, the developer has paid their portion into it.
Right.
Just kind of want to make sure
So
that.
the CTP, there is some realignment just north of that up by the Cersei Road. Generally speaking, other projects recently that there have been kind of NCDOT projects on the forefront, it's all timing. If NCDOT gets there first, then that's a bonus and you don't have to do those improvements. But if you get there before they do, then you're responsible for the CTP improvements.
Sure, just trying to save you a phone call or two with some shaking fists.
If I'm not mistaken, the NC 55 widening is funded up to Hickorilla Lane.
Jackarilla?
Yeah, from Jackarilla Lane, and then from there north, it's not funded. But to me, I guess, we don't show the CTP on the staff map here, but your eastern Fuquay-Varina Parkway comes into a T intersection with NC 55 directly across from this property.
It's going to be going just north, that the Fuquay-Varina Parkway will come in just below that overhead court on the west side of 55.
Is that 150 feet?
Right. That is the stretch of Fuquay-Varina Parkway that Carolina Gardens is responsible for constructing, that was realigned. It has not been determined at this point how it will cross over, but there is a large pond, as you can see, right there.
Yeah.
So,
Do we have an actual update to the CTP for that yet? I mean, I don't know.
so
what
yes,
you-
the CTP was updated to show
Oh, okay.
Fuquay-Varina Parkway no longer going through the Carolina Garden property, but going to the south there. But it does not correct. Right now, there's kind of a disconnect along 55 where the Fuquay-Varina Parkway then picks up a little bit further
Right,
north.
so we don't have that formalized yet in the CTP. Okay.
Yes.
In either case, residents should know that improvements are coming.
Yes, they are.
Relief
So
is
this
on the way.
property is not specifically impacted by the Fuquay-Varina Parkway alignment.
They may regret that when they see all the orange cones, but you know.
Yeah.
Is any other questions or any other?
Just one more comment I wanted to add to the gentleman's opposition comment about, and we've been hearing this quite a bit lately about the neighborhood meetings aren't being as informative as folks hope they would. And so if there's any additional, encouragement we can give petitioners to offer additional information at these meetings, I think that would be helpful, just to be able to provide some clarity and cause some less confusion.
In this case, I think the delay is that, as I mentioned earlier on the previous one, is that often the rezoning is submitted and then staff continues to work with the petitioner. There are specific dates that they have to meet for this neighborhood meeting. And originally, they were going for an earlier planning board meeting. So they had that neighborhood meeting much earlier than I think all these conditions were finalized. So they just didn't even have those to present at the time.
Okay.
Great conditions, though.
Yeah, that was.
Great conditions.
We asked them to paint a picture.
They painted a
They
picture.
did.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you guys are going to quite police at least 10 homes on main intersections during this, but that's still, it's
They will have to identify those with the subdivision plan.
okay. If I may, I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll recommend approval of REZ-2020-20 as presented by staff.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're done with, well, no, we aren't. Item, sort of done. We're at item 4B, Town Code Amendment, Town of Fuquay-Varina Land Development Ordinance, LDO Amendment 14, CTA 2021-03, withdrawn. The purpose of this agenda item is to receive the town's withdrawal of the request for the text amendment to the Land Development Ordinance. Further information provided by staff.
I'm submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents in the official records of the town. The town is withdrawing the request to amend the Land Development Ordinance Amendment 14. Staff may bring an amendment back for consideration after the consideration of the amendments required as part of the Chapter 160D updates.
Okay. And so really this is partly impacted by all of the updates that you have to make. It doesn't make sense to make little updates when you got this big.
Right, we are trying to get a
Okay.
clean document to do all the 160D updates
Okay,
on.
so let's not muck it up with all these little things. Okay. Understand. Any questions on that? We're just receiving that. Okay. Now we're done with the public hearings. Other business, item 5A, Fuquay-Varina Planning Board Bylaws Amendment. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a proposed amendment of the Planning Board Bylaws to reflect recent statutory updates per North Carolina General Statutes, Chapter 160D. Further information provided by staff.
I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official records of the town. In 2019, the North Carolina General Statutes were amended to combine the statutory guidelines for cities and towns, formerly Chapter 160A, and counties, previously Chapter 153, into the newly formed Chapter 160D. Chapter 160D consolidates current city and county statutes for development regulation into a unified chapter and additional changes. As a result, cities and counties across the state have been working diligently to ensure their governmental compliance with the updated statute. The Town of Fuquay-Varina's Planning Department has spent several months working on amendments to various documents and intends to ensure all language and policy meets the newly improved standards described in the statute. The amendment proposed herein reflects that effort and brings the Planning Board bylaws into compliance with North Carolina General Statute, Chapter 160D. Updates made to the Planning Board bylaws are as follows. The section refers to relevant North Carolina General Statute section, changing from 160A-361 to 160D-301. Language requiring the Planning Board to take an oath of office has been added. Oath for office will be issued upon approval of the Planning Board bylaw amendment by the Town Board. The document has been updated to standardize the formatting to ensure visual recognition with the town's brand. A grammatical cleanup has also been performed. A text amendment for the Land Development Ordinance will be presented to the Planning and Town Boards in a few months. While the amendment pertains to numerous sections of the LDO, staff wanted to bring the Planning Board's attention to the addition of an expanded conflict of interest statement for which is specific to the Planning Board. The expanded conflict of interest statement is below. A member of the Planning Board shall not vote on any advisory or legislative decision regarding a development regulation adopted according to this ordinance where the outcome of the matter being considered is reasonably likely to have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact on the member. A Planning Board member shall not vote on any matter if the landowner of the property subject to a rezoning petition or the applicant for a text amendment is a person with whom the member has close familial, business, or other associational relationship. Staff recommends that the Planning Board bylaws be amended to become compliant with the requirements of North Carolina General Statute, Chapter 160D. I am available for any additional questions.
Any questions? Or
No, I just have a comment. I want to thank you for this. We have needed this for a while.
Yes, thank you. I'm open to a motion to recommend the bylaws for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, then we're on to administrative reports. We've got the planning staff report, which is provided as information only. Any questions on that? Anybody gone through that? Have any questions? Otherwise, you can bring them up later. And I believe we're on to adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Discussion.
Aye. Adjournment.